Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. I am Jack, joined by.
Giovanni.
All right, we're back here for another episode. Uh, Last week we were talking about Dreamcatcher's latest album. This week we're back with a favorite of Gio's and I. We are going to be talking about B.I.'s new studio album, To Die For.
This week we have leveled up in every sense of the word. It's not only we start so soon with hating on Dreamcatcher, but come on, man, this is what an album is. Jesus Christ. Anyways, so let's start off with like some basic information that I found on the album, which is really interesting because it gives us like more to talk about. So the studio album has 15 tracks. Includes rap, rock, electronic, and dubstep music, which is kind of like very rare to see nowadays because I think dubstep kind of died off. But in the interview, B.I. says that this album is meant to dive deeper into resistance. Quotation marks. That is what he said about the album. He says that I'm trying to put more variants and diverse genres and styles of music on the album. I think it's more experimental than before. It has more power than the other songs I had, which I think is very true. He then goes on to say that To Die For is a reflection of loneliness, including how both youth and love can lead to it. And then he shares a very interesting quote, and it says, when you're in love with someone, it's not always equal. One side is always loving the other more, and that can make that person feel lonely. So his main drive this time around is surrounding loneliness. And as we get through the songs, I'm going to tell you guys more about what he says that relate to it, but I found it very interesting, but also kind of confusing because I wasn't able to find all the pieces of the puzzle, I guess. But yeah.
Interesting. I like the amount of effort he put into this and thought behind it all.
Yeah, let's start with the first song, To Die.
What do you think of this one?
Banger. It's a very strong start to the album. I think what I really like about it, I don't know if you'll see this too, but towards like the end of the song, it felt very Metro booming in the production of the instrumentals. Like as soon as that maybe it's like the last minute or like last 30 seconds of the song starts, I just like I instantly thought, whoa, am I listening to Metro Boomin right now? Did Metro Boomin help this guy produce this album? I don't know if you can see it, but that is one of the main things that stood out to me. Also, one of the lyrics that he says, that I found two translations for it. One of them is a lot darker than the other. It says, I'd rather kill myself than be a villain. That's translation one. But a different translation on Genius says, I'd rather kill my ego than be a villain. Which, I guess the argument could be made that both mean the same thing. But I thought that was very interesting in like the whole aspect of the song.
Yeah, I caught that line too. That was a really good line too. For me, I think the biggest thing to note is just like how, like, it's an immediate start, like he just starts going and rapping like from the very beginning, like very fast paced. Like it reminds me of sort of, or not like in the same way, but you know how like back in Alive, like he just starts rapping super fast to start off the song.
Mm-hmm.
Like it reminded me of that, where it's like you don't even get time to prepare yourself. Like I was like trying to read the lyrics and take notes, but it was such a struggle because of how fast he was going. The line that like caught my eye that I thought was like a pretty cool line was not only the one you mentioned, but the one where the translation says, "You want to talk to me about music? You gotta at least have a PhD." I was like, that's a pretty funny line to say, but like I do like it because it shows, in a sense, like it's supposed to basically say, he takes this very seriously, and if you're gonna come talk to him about his music or music in general, it's like you better be pretty well knowledged on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that confidence from B.I. that's like he's always had that. do you remember when I think we talked about his solo song, One and Only, where he is pretty much just like this. That confidence just hasn't left yet. Dude, it's sick. It's sick to see. Another, like, there's two more lines that really stuck out to me. One of them is partial. It's to a voluntary banishment. And that goes back to the whole loneliness thing, because in the article, he also said something very interesting. I just remembered that I took a screenshot of it because I didn't feel like writing all of it down. He says that. That's a different one. Never mind. So basically, in the article, he says that lately he's been feeling very lonely, but it's kind of like he forces himself to feel that because of how strong it like inspires him. He willingly stays home and by himself in a recluse manner, and the emotion is that powerful to him that it gives him inspiration towards his music. And as soon as I saw that lyric, I was like, this is in reference to what he said during the interview. And I thought that was, again, like, mind-blowing stuff. Because it's like his whole inspiration comes from, like movies, books, poems, video games, other people's music. But okay, that's one thing. But then purposely making yourself feel a very, I guess, dark emotion that is loneliness to produce music, that's like, whoa, this guy's really committed to what he's doing.
Yeah.
And it kind of relates back to like the whole like track 9. We'll talk about it later, but the whole Michelangelo thing, having like the whole like how extreme the artists were back then. Like you have Van Gogh cutting off his ear to give it to the woman that he loves. Like he is kind of like on that level of stuff, and it's just like it's crazy to me.
Yeah. Real quickly before we move on, you mentioned the thing at the end. The switch up in the song definitely caught me off guard on my first listen, and similar to you, it's like the way like he switched up and the style he did afterward. It was like I was really trying to figure out like where have I like heard like a similar sort of like beat switch before, and I was struggling to remember. I wanted to say it was a Kendrick Lamar song where it had like a similar beat switch, but I just couldn't locate what the song that I was thinking of was. But yeah, that beat switch at the end was pretty cool as well.
Mm-hmm. It's a strong start to the album, and it stays at that strength, or I'd even say it goes even beyond that by the end of it.
Yeah, real good stuff. Our second song is Wave. This one definitely had that sort of experimental feel to it, especially for what we've seen from B.I. in the past. Like this one very much felt very experimental.
In the first few times I listened to it, I was not a fan because I don't know, the whole like the electronic dubstep aspects to it, like that really like threw me off. Like I'm listening to, the first part of the song is B.I. rapping, it's kind of like an electronic kind of beat, cool, but it goes into like the full dubstep, and I was like, whoa, this might not be for me. But today when I listened to it while I was preparing for this podcast, I was like, bro, this is another banger of his. The beginning, the intro of the song is kind of, I also said that it was kind of Metro Boomin-esque, with just like how the instrumentals build up and how they're like layered with each other. It reminded me a lot of like Metro Boomin style. The features on it did really well in my opinion. Kid Millie, he's a new name for me. I've never heard of him before. I thought his part of the song was really well done. His rap was, his flow was nice. It fit the song. It wasn't like jarring in any way. And then Little Cherry, another new name to me. Her part is very short, but it hits different. Just with like the change of, I guess, vocal range compared to B.I. and Kid Millie. I thought it's really, like as a song and as a whole, it works really well, and I enjoy it now. Yeah, I didn't write any of the lyrics down for it, but it's a dub in my books.
Yeah. I'm personally still like in the stage that you were. I'm trying to like really I don't necessarily not like it, but I'm really trying to get a feel for the song still, and if I for like just kind of really try and get the most out of this song. I will agree. As a whole, when it comes to the features on like the song and the album, they definitely do. Like, I'm glad that they matched the sort of vibe and feel for each song. That there was like a featured artist on. Like they went in the same direction. It didn't feel like such an abrupt change. You know. So that was definitely one thing, especially for like this song, like you said, like they definitely matched a lot of what the song was about.
When it comes to like the whole going back to the what did I say? Something about resistance. The dive deeper into resistance. I think this is the one song that kind of like fully portrays that idea, because it, like the lyrics alone, they're all about kind of starting their own wave of stuff and being in control. So yeah, for the message, also another W for Bi, and the features as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on to our third song that I don't know the title to, and the only reason I bring this up is because I've like anytime I go to search this song up, either on YouTube, on Apple Music, on Genius, whatever, when I was trying to, like obviously the song's there to listen to. When I'm trying to search it up, each place kind of has a different name, and I don't know if that's because the translation is getting mixed up, like in terms of like the song name, because I see it as the Island of Misfit Toys, but then I try and look it up, and places like YouTube and I think Apple have it labeled as the Island Misfit of Toys, and I'm just like, doesn't the first one sound like it makes more sense? But like, I don't get it. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it's a translation thing, but a lot of like places have like different names for it.
Yeah, I wrote it down as Island Misfit of Toys.
Yeah, I don't know. I see it different everywhere, so I really don't know what's the correct way for this song to be titled.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think of it?
I didn't notice that, honestly. But that's interesting. It might be a mistake on one side of the party, I guess. But I thought this song was very similar to what we've heard before from Bi. Kind of similar to like in his Waterfall album and maybe Cosmos. No, I wouldn't say we saw something like this in Lover Loved. But yeah, it's kind of, it's typical Bi kind of song. Some of the lyrics that stood out to me were, "Let's drift through a life that will never happen again amid uncertainty."
I
thought that
highlighted
line
that
was
one.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I highlighted that lyric as well.
In the interview, he said that in some of the songs he made reference to Full Metal Alchemist. And I think I found one of the lines where it says, "Why is there no game without loss?" And you see how, I don't know if you watched the anime, but it's about like keeping balance. Like in order to like produce something, you have to like give up something else.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a pretty cool reference to the show. And then the last one that I have is, even if it's just during the chorus where it says, "Even if it's just the two of us in this world, I'll say you're special." And I think that line will go over a lot of people's head in like, how deep it actually means. But yeah, his lyricism from here on, his lyricism, insane. He goes way too crazy with it.
Funny enough, I said like the same thing as you did, where I was like, it's a change of pace from the previous two songs, but this is a song that is like, it's more of what you sort of know Bi for, Like it definitely sounds like similar to his work, or like maybe some of his previous work that people had become accustomed to, like you said, from Waterfall or maybe even Cosmos. It definitely sounds that way. But nonetheless, I think it still fits on this album. It's really good, and I really like the message of this one as well.
Mm-hmm. The theme kind of reminds me of is it, let me see, Love, Middle with You.
Mm.
where it kind of talks about, you know, just being with the other person in, you know, a very beautiful place and just enjoying each other's company. The message kind of reminds me of that, but it seems like a little darker, and it doesn't seem as happy as Middle with You was.
Mm.
But,
Yeah, I get that
it,
feeling too.
I don't know. It kind of feels like Bi is on a, like, when you listen, like when you from here on, when you like when we start talking about the lyrics, it's kind of like, who hurt this man? But then you have to remember that this guy has never dated like anyone in his life, so he's like he somehow is able to portray all of these emotions as if he's experienced it with no experience, and that's like, I don't know.
He just like me. Just kidding.
But yeah, I think the next song is the title track of this album. I'm not entirely sure because I haven't seen, you know, people talk about it much. But it's "Die for Love" featuring Jesse. What did you think of this song?
Uh, well, I know the first thing I noted was that like, just like the levels of experimentation on this album are just, crazy to me. I know there's gonna be those people that like will give this a listen and be like, oh, that's not truly experimental. But you gotta understand, especially for the artists we're talking about, like a lot of the stuff is that he was doing on this album to me. I was like, I would have never expected to hear from him. Like a lot of the stuff that he was doing, like I don't know, they just have like you said it best where you were like he doesn't make like the same song twice. Basically, it's like the songs on this album are all just so different from one another, and yet they fit on this one album perfectly.
It's not like other. I'm gonna throw shade at the whole K-pop industry as a whole, but there are certain like instances where the group is like, oh, we're coming back with a new style, a new like a more experimental song, but it's literally the same song again, maybe with one difference, and that really bothered me. I really hate it when artists say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna try like new things," and then when they release the music, it's the same thing again. Like, come on, bro, what are you doing? But with Bi, his last four releases, Cosmos, Lover Loved, Waterfall, and B2B2, have been similar but but not. They're like signature Bi, like it's his style, but made each time made different. And I like that he stayed true to his word, saying that he's never going to make the same song twice, or that he hates making the same song twice. And it's very evident in this album because there's not one song that's like, oh, these two sound very similar to each other. It's just not. Like each song has its own personality. Like there's 9 different people on this album, and it's cool to see. But to talk about the "Die for Love" featuring Jesse, I wrote some of the lyrics down that I thought were very interesting. Like they felt like very bold statements to me. Like during the chorus when he says, "I'll die for love, cool way to go." That's like, okay, that's very bold of you to say. And then it says like, and then it goes on to say, "It's a great way to ruin your life." Okay, and then it says, "Love to die, you might think it's insane." Everyone, like everyone outside of the bubble would think, yeah, this guy's insane. Why is he saying that? What, like, love is cool, but like, let's not take it too far. And he says, "Only love destroys me again. It's perfect contrast, and it's empty but fancy. It's worth your life." All right, bro. Who hurt you, man? What's going on here? I really enjoyed the unexpected. Like, yeah, man. I would sacrifice my love for the person that I love, my life for the person that I love. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, definitely agree with the lyrics on this song. Like that, they're just like, it's so crazy to see the extent he goes to. And but at the end, like at the very end, like in the outro, you hear like him and Jesse basically both saying, love to die for. You might think it's insane, but like I'm gonna risk it all.
Yeah, it's a very happy song, but like the lyrics are kind of like, what's the word? Psychopathic, I guess.
Yeah, you definitely look at it and like, I don't know if you need to take things that far for love.
Mm-hmm. I also like during Jesse's verse, when she made a reference to Bitul Bitul. I thought at first I thought that she was saying bitter bitter in like a way to make it sound like she's saying Bitul Bitul, but she's actually saying Bitul Bitul, and I thought that was a cool Easter egg, I guess, to his earlier release from last year, I think. Don't remember when that song came out, but I thought that was really cool. Yeah, this song, the piano at the end with like the little, jazz E kind of solo, I thought that was really cool. I wasn't expecting that. It felt very anime-like in a way.
Yeah, I really like that closing intro too, or closing instrumental. I mean, really enjoyed that one. What's it called? Next song though, "Dare to Love." I thought this was another song that sounded like a bit more similar in the realm of like his usual sound, but again at the same time it doesn't sound like any other song he's made. It just has that signature style to it, as you called it,
I'm looking at. Okay, I was just making sure that because I thought this is his first song with Big Naughty. Because I remember I thought he was in Waterfall, but the guy's name is Tableau, and I don't know how I feel about Tableau still. But yeah, I thought the feature on this one was really nice. It didn't stick out as much as all the other ones in Waterfall or Cosmos. Like do you remember Nerd? Featuring Cold Day? That one kind of felt like I didn't really like that one, but with Big Naughty, new name again for me. I thought it was really nice. His little his verse confuses me because it was kind of like he was speaking in metaphors, and I thought it's cool, but then it's kind of like also confusing. But for BI section, the lyrics that I wrote down that I thought were worth noting. You bloom like a flame. The ice age of emotion is over. That's pretty cool. And then the tragedy will begin as soon as I say I love you. Yikes. This one's really cool. I like the reference to it. Icarus. Put your wings on each other's shoulders, fly high, knowing the fall. To me, that's a reference to Icarus because, he put on the wings, he flew too high, he fell to his death. And then here, he's pretty much saying, all right, we're going to do this knowing that if we go too high, like he knows the risk, but he's still going to go for it. It's kind of like to die for him. He's like, yeah, I know, I'm still going to do it anyways. I like that. I like those three from BI's parts. And then for Big Naughty, the one that kind of like stuck out to me it was definitely pretty earlier. It was the perfect outfit for me. And then he goes on to say that it was just, but when he put it on, the other person was wearing a new outfit and that it just became used clothes. So I don't know. His part was very confusing to me.
Yeah, I definitely didn't mind this feature at all either. Thought he did pretty good, but yeah, definitely like his verse is one you had to really sort of like analyze a bit more to really get what he's saying. I also thought this song was definitely like a bit on the shorter side. Like a part of me wanted it to be longer, but at the same time I was like, it seems fine in its length, but it just like it felt a bit short.
Some of the songs on some of the songs are like barely touching 3 minutes. Some like not even making it to 3 minutes. And I thought it was very interesting because when the track list released during like the build up of the comeback, a lot of people were like complaining, it's like, oh, why are there so many songs that are only 2 minutes long? But now I kind of understand why, because it's kind of like they have a story to tell, but they don't want to like drag it out too much. But yeah, it's kind of like for this one, it's kind of like it's forgivable because each song is like a banger on its own.
Definitely. All right. We move on to our next song, and you gotta explain this feature to me, man.
Okay, so crying nuts. He's actually, or this, I don't know. I think it's a group, or they were a group. They're considered one of the pioneers when it comes to rock in Korea. So, I guess for like culturally, this is like a big moment. Because, he's like they're one of the pioneers. He's coming on with Bi. His chorus was sick. The chorus of this song is sick. It got a little bit repetitive, but it's sick. I like it. The whole what is it like? I'm like a dog. You know, that kind of like, you know, perspective of it was really cool to me, and you know, the rock aspect of it was really nice. But yeah, this is the one time I would say that I prefer the feature over Bi's part. 'Cause that guy went hard, bro.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was interesting to start off with the feature. Like they started off the track with the feature, but it was I really liked it. You know, I did like how Bi like, you know, essentially like matched the energy of and feel of it all. But yeah, I really liked the feature on this one, and you know, a song like this just is kind of showcasing just not only the versatility of this album, but Bi overall as an artist. You know, the fact that he's able to, you know, make a song like this, and yeah, I really thought it was a pretty good song. I really liked the drums on this track especially.
Yeah, like the whole instrumentals of this song were really good. Yeah, I like that. It shows his versatility as an artist. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because he was all over the place on this album, and like I said earlier, you know, he was all over the place, but yet he found a way to make it all like work together. You know, like that's one thing that you kind of notice with a lot of artists is like they'll try and experiment, and because it's like their first go at it, it's like it's all over the place. You know, like yeah, well, I can't really think of any examples off the top of my head, but like you hear like a lot of these artists like try and experiment, and it's just like sometimes they're doing too much, you know, and it just doesn't work out in their favor.
Yeah, it's kind of like it makes sense to them, but the public doesn't see it the same way that they do. So it's kind of like it becomes jarring to us compared to them, because they have like, you know, they have their own vision of the album. They have their own like interpretation, and like, oh, okay, like without explanation, you're just like, oh, this is a mess. But yeah, more often than not, when an artist says that, oh yeah, this album is very experimental, it's not in a good way. From experience, I guess, especially in the K-pop world, because half of the time they be giving out trash, and you know, K-pop fans still take it. But yeah, moving on. The track 7. I feel like we're going a little bit too fast. But track 7, Cloud Thought. This one was very interesting. This might be my least favorite from the 9. One of the lyrics that I wrote down was, through unnecessary consumption of emotion, I'm tired every day without knowing why. And funny enough, today in the morning I started reading a new book. I'm not going to read the title because it has a curse word in it, but it was literally talking about the very thing. Like in modern society, people care way too much about way too many things, so they're spread out thin. That's why they're always so like emotionally drained, mentally drained, physically drained, I guess you could say too. And the author pretty much says, all right, you got to stop caring about every little thing, you know, about everybody else, what they think of you, what you think of them. Just focus on, you know, your own, like your family, your friends, your hobbies, your career. Do that, and then you'll be a much happier person. And turns out that Bi also says, or Bi expresses the same idea through that lyric. I thought it was a cool coincidence, because what are the chances I read that part today?
Yeah, what's it called? I definitely like the song lyrically. I don't have like any specific set of lyrics to like highlight, but I definitely enjoyed it lyrically. What's it called? I feel similar in what you were saying though. Like I definitely liked the feeling of this song. Like it feels like something you can put on sort of like anytime, anywhere. But then that also kind of leaves it with the issue of like it doesn't like stand out too much in a sense, like the other ones, you know, who like I guess because the other songs are just so like jarring and like have like in the sense of like how when you equated it to 9 different people, it's like they have like these brighter shining personalities. This one's like a more like laid back song, so it's like it's not one that you're gonna like go to and say like, you know, like this is like not to diss on the song, but not to say like it's like one of the like highlights of the album, but like it's just like a decent song that, like I said, like can be played probably like anytime, anywhere. Like almost in a sense, kind of like a background song.
Yeah, it's kind of like that friend that you could just chill with and not really do anything exciting. Yeah, I can see that too.
Moving on to our final two songs, and I'll just let you know here we got about 15 minutes left, so we definitely got some time to go more into depth for these final two songs if you want. We have Truth.
Okay, I wrote so many lyrics down for this one. This one, it has a similar meaning of alcohol free from Twice. The whole like, I feel intoxicated, but I haven't consumed any alcohol. That's what love does to you, allegedly. I guess, I don't know. Yeah, we see that message again, but this time it's a little bit more depressing, I guess you could say. I'm just gonna begin reading out the lyrics that I have. It says, "Your meaning is complete truth and endless sweet secrets, and then show salvation to a shallow soul. Smile for me. You're beyond everything. Truth, you're my only muse. I think that's the answer to the question of my life. Will you show me heaven, my truth?" So, well, it's not really depressing, but it's kind of like, I guess it kind of relates back to the whole one person loves the other more, like he said in the interview. So, like, this guy, or this person, I should say, is completely infatuated in love, head over heels for their partner, and they feel it to the point where they think that that person is the answer to all of their problems, to everything that they could ever want in life. That it's she's the one, he's the one, so on and so forth. That's the kind of like the extremity of this song, which is really nice. I think this is this one and Michelangelo are I think top two. Yeah, from this album for me. I really like the message of the song. The trumpet at the end, holy cow! It kind of goes back to the whole the piano and To Die For. This is like you don't expect it, but it fits so well with like the mood of the song. It's kind of like, yeah.
This is gonna. Well, I'll save the last part, that like the final thought I have on this song, because I want to see what you think, but it involves like what you're talking about. But so, this song, off of first listen, it reminded me a bit of Joji's Slow Dancing in the Dark, in the sense that like it's this sort of like sad ballad with like these drawn out vocals, to like really emphasize the emotions in the song, I just really like that, and a lot of the lyrics, the instrumental at the end, I thought it was pretty bold to just have like, I looked at it was almost like about a minute left of the song to just be like that pure instrumental with the trumpet and all that, but I really liked it, and because of that, a part of me wishes this was the final song of the album. Like, the last song isn't bad. I agree with you. It's definitely like one of like the top. I would definitely put it as one of the top tracks from this album. But when it goes back to, I think I mentioned it last week when we talked about I made such a short note of it about like album sequencing and how you sequence the tracks on an album and how you format it and all that. To me, this song just definitely felt like an album closer, just because of that that instrumental at the end, and also because, in a sense, like other than or actually, I think it was like after Beautiful Life, the songs really started to slow down a bit. Like Cloud Thought was definitely a bit like slower paced in a sense. So it's like, in my eyes, I would have probably had this one be a closer, but I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, the only problem with that is, well, where would you put like Michelangelo in the rest of the album? But yeah, I feel like if Michelangelo wasn't a part of this album, it would be like one of the like top 10 best finishers of an album in the history of mankind, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, that trumpet at the end, it just kind of like. The one thing that I really hate about this is that I don't understand Korean, or not well enough, where I could just listen to the song and understand or like know what he's talking about, because the messages of these songs, I feel like they're very powerful, and without understanding the language, you're just left in the dark, and that really kills it for me. That really bugs me. But yeah, I could really see this song is so good, bro. Like, I don't know what he was eating or what he was cooking when he made this, but what a banger, bro.
Yeah, definitely really enjoyed this one. Definitely. And moving on to the final song, if you don't have any more to say, Michelangelo, I don't know, maybe because like I don't know, I really wish, because I doubt there's anything out there, because you know when people do these interviews with artists, it's like they never ask the questions you want answers to, you know, they start asking all the basic stuff or the most random stuff, you know, but like I really wish we were able to just ask B.I., you know, like essentially like what's the significance of this track to the album, because I agree with you, a part of me wants to say like, oh, this could have been the intro or one of like the first starting songs, but then it's like he probably placed it here at the end for a specific reason, you know, and that's something we may never know, what was his thought process into sequencing this album, you know. Like, is there a specific reason for Michelangelo being the last song? And knowing B.I., there probably is, you know, like there probably is a reason why he chose to go with this over Truth as the closer of the album.
I feel like, and this is just a theory in my part that I literally just came up with, Truth is actually the end of the album. Michelangelo is its own separate thing, given its meaning. This is a reminder to his haters that he's him. Because I literally wrote down, this is the biggest I'm him anthem I've ever heard. Like, the kind of similar to his One and Only, where he's literally like, you know, telling the haters, you know, I'm him, leave me alone, you can't even compare to me. This is the biggest. I feel like this is just like a quick reminder of who B.I. is to the haters. Not that I could see many haters of him, you know, on Twitter or whatever, but I feel like this is just like, he could literally put Michelangelo bonus track and then it would make a lot more sense.
Yeah, I feel that too.
Yeah, but what a song. Like, for the lyrics, the ones that I wrote down is, the air that surrounds me is a renaissance. My inspiration is a child that breathes inside me. Yikes. And then, even if I fall, I'll go down in history. It's like Newton's apple. Yikes. And then, my belief is bigger than your mother effing doubt. Yikes. There was a lot more, but those three were like, when I read those three, or when I was reading those three when the song was on, I was like, man's cooking again, bro.
You talk about the biggest like I'm him moment. I think the chorus is definitely one of the biggest I'm him moments, to straight up say superior genes, God's ambitious work, I'm a reincarnation of Michelangelo, I transcend time, excellence is everything. Bro's just him.
He's cooking, bro. Like, I don't know where he gets this confidence from. If it's just like, you know, part of his persona as B.I., or maybe himself, Ken Hambin, is actually like this. But Jesus Christ, bro. If I could have this level of confidence, I would literally take over the world. It's kind of scary, not gonna lie, because
I just can't get over that. The first two lines of that chorus: superior genes, God's ambitious work. That's just crazy to me. Like, that's quite the statement to make in the first two lines of the chorus.
I feel like I missed out on those lines because of the translation that I saw.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Genius translation. So that's the one thing is, like, again, because we don't know Korean, we'll never know, like, what are they for sure saying. But if that's, like, the correct translation, like, that's the biggest I'm him moment I've ever seen.
Yeah. He's him. Like, he's him. What can you do, bro? He's him.
What's it called? I've seen a lot of people talk about, like, how, in a sense, what's the way I want to put it? I'll use a term from wrestling. They call him the ace idol, in a sense, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
they call him the ace in the sense of saying like, you know, he hits on like every sort of characteristic you want out of an idol, you know. And he even says that again. This is just the Genius translation. It could say something different, but the Genius translation says, "I give pleasure to your eyes and ears." Basically saying, you know, he not only has like the visuals to be an idol, because you know like that's something that that's somewhat like a role for some idols, you know, is like their visuals and all that, and like or like from what I've seen from people online is like, you know, they say like, oh, this person's like the main visual of the group, or like they're like, you know, that sort of thing. And then it's like he mentions the ears thing. It's like it's he not only has the visuals to look good to be an idol, but he has obviously the talent to do whatever, you know, whether it's singing, rapping, as we see on this album, experimenting with all these different sounds. You know, it's like he's basically the best at it all.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's so much more that is just going over our heads because we don't understand. Like the first verse is just filled with like so much complex stuff that like this probably gonna take a cool minute to like break down fully to understand all the references that he's making. Like when he says the iris is shining yellow, brilliance is chromatic vision. It's like, what is bro talking about, bro? But like to him, he's spitting bars. But what are the bars and what do they mean? You know?
Did you see the outro? I can't. I blanked on if you brought it up, but it says the Genius translation say, "Built a new world, set a new standard. This is the crystallization of aestheticism. Yes, despise me as much as you want in your desperation. Even if you put me down, I can see clearly in an unfair life. I'll reach the climax."
So nothing's gonna stop him.
Yeah, this man got the confidence never before seen, you know. But, you know, I will say I don't see any of it as like narcissism or you know, arrogance, because he clearly has the talent to back it up. You know, it's one thing to make all these statements, but this man has it all to back it up, you know. Like, you look at his discography at this point, you want to include his work from Icon too as well. It's like there's nothing this man can't do, and an album like this even shows that further just by how much he experimented with various genres, you know.
Dude, this guy's resume is insane. He's literally written for like all of the big names that were or are still part of YG, even groups that are just like out there. He's written for so many people. He's written for himself. He literally kept a group on. What's the expression? He kept a whole group afloat, just being himself. It's crazy. I don't know where we go from here, to be honest with you, because this is such a banger of an album. It's literally 9 for 9, 10 out of 10. Where do we go from here? Is the next one going to be even better than this? Is it going to be on par with this? I don't even know. Like, where does he go from here? Like, he retires. The bar is set way too high for him to just come back with something that's not up to this level. But knowing him, knowing B.I., somehow he's going to shatter it, dude. He
retires on top of the game. Nah, I would never want that, though.
Yeah, bro. If something happens to B.I., the music loses one of the giants.
The day we lose B.I., as Jose put it that one time, I guess that's my last day. But with about a minute and 15 left, final thoughts and ratings?
I'd give it a 10 out of 10. From start to finish, it's a journey on its own. Each song has its own personality, like we've said. Maybe one song is weaker than the other, but it's still a 10 out of 10 song. So yeah, I'd give it a 10 out of 10.
Given my stance in that I'm still, you know, like I've given it quite a couple listens, so it's like, but like it's still like how we were saying, like it's something that we want to like dig even deeper to than we did here. I'm going to give it a 9 for now, just because I know if I do more listening, if I look into it more, you know, if I look at as many translations as I can, you know, I think I'll come to fully appreciate it, you know. So I give it a 9 on the basis that like I haven't fully dove into this album, you know. But
yeah, that's fair.
But with that being said, thank you all for joining for this episode. I've been Jack.
Johnny.
Thank you all for joining for this episode.